Hi, my name is Martin Perhiniak. Welcome back to the Digital Art series here on PSD Tuts Plus. Today I'm going to talk about perspective. First of all, why is it important to use perspective in your paintings? Whenever we are drawing in 2 dimensions on a flat surface, but we would like to simulate 3 dimensions, and to be able to show depth and scale, we need to use perspective. In this tutorial, I don't want to spend too much time on the theory. I just would like to help you to learn about the tools that you can use in Photoshop to quickly get used to working with perspective for your artwork. If you want to learn more about perspective and how to construct drawings in perspective, you can find some really useful tutorials on PSD Tuts Plus. For example, this one, How to Draw with Perspective from Gavin. This is a really useful tutorial, and you can easily find it if you search for perspective here on the top right corner on the PSD Tuts Plus website. So if you are interested in this topic and you have more time, you can find other tutorials. But as I said, I would like to show you quickly the tools that we need. I press Command N or Control N on PC to create a new document, and this document will be 1000 by 1000 pixels pixel size. And I just create this document quickly. Okay. Now, first of all, what you need for perspective is a horizon. I just use the vector shapes and I selected the line tool. It's set to 1 pixel size and my color is set to black. And here on the top left, I also have the shape layers option selected, which will create a separate shape layer for this line. I can decide where I would like to put my horizon. I will put it somewhere here in the middle. So that is my horizon line. And then I'm going to set a vanishing point. Now for that, I just select this tool, the ellipse tool, and I click somewhere on the horizon. I hold down Alt and Shift, and I create a point like this. Alt and Shift helps me to draw a perfect circle centered on the line. So let's say that's my vanishing point. What does the vanishing point mean? It means that all the lines in my drawing will converge into that point. So just to show you, I'm going to draw a couple of more lines, and all the lines in my drawing should be leading or meeting up in that point. So no matter where they start, they will always meet in the vanishing point. And I'm not really accurate with this drawing now. This is just an example. Okay, so let's say I have several lines here now meeting in the same point. Okay, and if I start drawing something, and I'm now going to change the weight of the line tool to 3 pixels just to make it a bit more visible. If I start drawing, I can follow the horizon, so make a line parallel to the horizon, and then follow these lines here on the bottom, and I can easily start creating something like a box following these lines, and it will be a 3D shape. Okay, something like this. I can even finish with these lines in the background, and I already have roughly accurate 3D shape following this vanishing point. This is called one-point perspective. So once again, let me write this down. This is the horizon. Okay, so that line is the horizon, and that point is the vanishing point. We can call it VP1. And now that we know what we need for perspective, we can create a vanishing point custom shape, which we can easily use later on in other examples to help to set up perspective for a new scene. So let me do that now. I'm going to create another new document, the same size, it doesn't really matter. And then I select again the line tool I set the line weight to 1 pixel, and I still have the shape layers option selected. And I'm going to draw a line here in the middle. If you hold down Shift, you can draw a vertical line, a straight vertical line. Okay, so there's my line. Then I use Command T or Control T on PC to select that line with free transform option. And then here on the W value, which is the width, I will change the percentage to 10%, and then I press Enter and Enter again. So I reduced the width of this line. Then I use again Command T, and I'm going to select this point here on the left, so this point at the bottom, which is going to be used as the base of the rotation. This is called the reference point. So I set the reference point in the middle at the bottom, and then I'm going to type in 2 degrees. That's the angle option here on the top, and I type in 2 degrees and I press Enter and Enter again. So what I did is, now with free transform, I turned this line 2 degrees to the right, so clockwise, while keeping the bottom end point in the same location. So it was rotating around this point here in the middle. There is an option in Photoshop which can easily repeat the same transformation on the same object, and it's called again. It's under the transform option. Because we have a path selected, it's called transform path. So edit, transform path. If I click on again, it will do the same thing again. So keeping still the base point and just rotating the line 2 degrees to the right. Now, if you hold down Alt while you select this option, so if you go to Edit, Transform Path again, and you hold down Alt or Option on the keyboard, it will not only repeat the transformation, but it will also copy that selected line. You will see why it's important for us. But before I continue, I would like to also point out that if you create a custom keyboard shortcut for this option, and what I use for it is Command-Shift-T, then if you just simply use the keyboard shortcut, Command-Shift-T, and add the Alt to it, so Command-Alt-Shift-T, and press that several times. I'm holding down the 3 keys, Command, Alt, and Shift, and I'm just pressing T. That will make it really simple to add as many lines as you want to the same custom shape by just simply repeating the same transformation again and again, but at the same time copying the lines. So not just repeating the transformation, but also copying them. If you don't know how to create custom keyboard shortcuts, I'll show you quickly. It's under Edit, Keyboard Shortcuts, and here you can go to Edit. You find the option, which is the Again option. You click on it and just simply press Command-Shift-T or Control-Shift-T on PC. After that, you just need to click on Accept and then click on OK. So I continue using the keyboard shortcut. Remember, not just Command-Shift-T, because that will repeat the transformation without duplicating the item. I hold down also Alt, so Command-Alt-Shift-T, and I'm pressing it several times until I get 360 degrees of this line. Okay, and I would like to also point out that if you want to keep all these lines in the same vector mask, so in one shape layer, then you have to have this option also selected here on the top, which is called Add to Shape Area. So if you see lots of layers here on the right, then it's not a problem, but it's better to have this option selected, so Add to Shape Area on the top, before you start duplicating the lines, because that will keep all of the lines in one layer. And it's easier also to save it as a custom shape if you use this option. Now, we have all the lines, and this is what I'm going to use. So if I zoom closer, this is actually the vanishing point here in the middle. And these are all the lines that we are going to use as guides to set up our perspective. And by the way, it is also good to hypnotize someone if you use something like this and you zoom in and out. It's quite interesting effect. I just want to make sure that you don't take me too seriously, because I would like to make these tutorials fun, not just useful to learn from. So I hope I can entertain you. So we have this shape, and I would like to save it as a custom shape. So I'm just make sure I have it selected with this tool, not with the move tool, with the selection tool. So this path selection tool, the black arrow. I selected the whole shape, and then I go to edit and I choose define custom shape. Okay, with this we can easily save it. We can call it vanishing point. So let me just type in vanishing point. Okay, and it's saved already. So next time, and let me just delete this layer, I press backspace and I click on OK. Next time, if I want to use the same shape, I just need to go to the shape options, I mean these vector tools, and I need to select custom shape tool. And from this drop down menu, I need to find the one that I saved, which is probably going to be the last one. Okay, so here in the list, the last one, I select that one. And when I click and drag, I can draw this shape. Make sure that when you're drawing it, you hold down Shift to make it symmetrical. Okay, so hold down Shift. And then if you select the background layer, you can see your lines. So there's the vanishing point, and these are all the lines converging to the vanishing point. Now, how to use this properly? I'll show you quickly an example. I just make it bigger with the free transform tool. Okay. And I'm going to decide where to put my horizon. I will probably keep it somewhere in the middle, but I'm going to put the vanishing point a little bit to the right, something like this. Okay. Now, I can see my horizon line, but to make sure it's easier to see, I'm going to use the line tool, and I'm going to draw a line here in the middle. So I held down the Shift key again to make it straight and horizontal line. So that's my vanishing point, and that's my horizon line. Now, once again, if I start drawing something, I can simply use the brush tool and draw freehand or use these lines. I can easily follow these lines now. So once again, I'm just creating a box using these guidelines. Let me zoom a bit closer. So there's the box. When I draw the straight lines, like vertical or horizontal lines, I hold down Shift. Apart from that, I just simply use the lines. I follow the lines that I have on this grid. You can also change the opacity of the grid if it's a bit too distracting when you're drawing. You can select that layer, the shape layer, and change the opacity. I'm just going to set it to 30, the opacity of that layer. So now you can see that by saving this custom shape, it's really simple to quickly set up a one-point perspective, and we can even use it to draw like other shapes, like an ellipse. I just create an ellipse here on the bottom, okay? And I would like to only see the outline, so I don't want a filled shape. And for that, the easiest way is to use the stroke. So I'm going to set a layer style for this shape, and I click on stroke, and I set the color of the stroke to black, and I set the size to 1 pixel and the position to center, and I click on OK. But I still see the fill, or the color fill in the middle. To get rid of that, I just turn down the fill opacity to 0%. So 0% like that. Okay, so now we can see through the circle and we only see the outline. Then I'm going to use the move tool and hold down Alt to duplicate this ellipse, and I also hold down Shift to move it only up and not to move it left or right. So keep it vertically aligned to the bottom one. And I would like to teach you just quickly how to draw ellipses in perspective. Again, this is a big topic. I just want to quickly show you how I usually work with ellipses. So if the top of this shape, this cylinder shape, is aligned with the horizon, then the ellipse should be completely flat. So something like this. And I'm going to draw two lines. I select again the line tool and I hold down shift and let me just draw two lines. Okay. So if the top of the cylinder is aligned to the horizon, then it should be completely flat and just one line. But if I select it again and I make it a bit bigger and then I move it down, the further away the ellipse gets from the horizon, the closer it will get to a perfect circle. So, for example, I keep one here close to the horizon line, which will look something like this. If it's further away, then it will be something like this. And the further away it gets, the closer it will be to the shape at the bottom. Okay? And it's the same if I go the other way. So if I copy this one here on the top, it will look like this. If it's closer to the horizon, again, it will be similar to the other one on the other side. Of course, it's not completely accurate, but it gives you a rough idea how to work with ellipses in perspective. We know how to work with one vanishing point, but there are 2-point perspectives and 3 and 4 and 5 and even more point perspectives as well. And I would like to show you examples of these. Here in this example, I can show you a 1-point perspective. As you can see, this image uses one vanishing point. I can easily show it to you with our custom shape. So once again, I just select the custom shape and I'm going to draw the vanishing point. Let me make it bigger. And we can find the original vanishing point by moving this layer around. So first of all, I'm concentrating here on the bottom, on the lines. So I try to find where was the original vanishing point. As you can see, if I move it left or right, it changes, the lines change. And I think this is quite close. I need to move it down. So it's also, we also need to find the horizon. So somewhere, I think, if I look at all the lines on the floor, the vanishing point should be here somewhere. And now I look at the lines on the right, and yeah, they are following these lines, and it works on the left as well. So we found the vanishing point. In this case, it's somewhere right in the center of the image, of the whole composition. So this is 1-point perspective, while the next image uses 2 vanishing points. It's really simple to see because the lines here on the left converge into somewhere here, while the lines on the right converge somewhere to this point. Okay, I'm not going to move the vanishing point around. You can easily tell that these lines will meet somewhere here, while the other lines will meet somewhere there. That is called a 2-point perspective. Now, most of the times in real life, the 2 vanishing points are not this close to each other, okay? So they are a bit further away from each other. I will show you an example with a photograph where we can see the 2-point perspective. Okay, but if you move the vanishing points close to each other, then you will get a very strong, exaggerated perspective. The similarity between 1-point perspective and 2-point perspective is that the vertical lines are straight. Okay, so here in the 1-point perspective, we see vertical lines are straight, and also in 2-point perspective, they are straight. But there is the next level, the 3-point perspective, where the vertical lines are also following a vanishing point. So in this case, I just simply show you with my brush that somewhere here there should be a vanishing point. So that's one vanishing point. Then there should be somewhere here another vanishing point. Let me see, somewhere, I think somewhere here. Okay, there's another vanishing point, and probably the third one is somewhere here. Okay, so if I extend some of these lines, we don't always need to use the custom shape, we can use the lines as well. So for example, if I extend this line, and we can tell that I wasn't accurate. So if I extend that line and then I extend another line, let's see, maybe this one here, okay, the intersection of these two lines will be one of the vanishing points. So this is here the real vanishing point, okay. And then I do the same thing on the left. I just follow this line and then the other line, and once again the intersection of these two here, that's the other vanishing point. So vanishing point 1 and 2, and I can do the same thing to find the third one. I just follow this line and then the other line, and I was very close with that vanishing point, so that's the third vanishing point, and I can delete the ones that I was drawing there. Okay, so you can tell now we see the 3 vanishing points, and if I turn back these lines, you can see how we got them. 3-point perspective is great if you want to emphasize depth or height. In this case, we can tell that these buildings are really tall and we are far away from the street level. We can do the opposite if we place the horizon at the bottom of the picture. You can imagine that, because now the horizon is somewhere here on the top, okay? And actually these 2 points should be on the same level. So probably again I wasn't too accurate, but that's the horizon line. And you can imagine if we place the horizon line somewhere at the bottom of the picture, then we will be on the street level and we are going to look up to the buildings. So that would be a completely different perspective, but again using 3 vanishing points. And it can be even more complicated if you go above 3-point perspective. So if you introduce a 4th or even a 5th vanishing point, then you will get something like this. So for example, this is a 5-point perspective where our vertical lines are distorted. So they are not straight, they are completely distorted. They are curves instead of straight lines. If you see something like that, you can tell that the image is using more than 3 vanishing points. Okay, so I don't want to get more detail into this. Remember, 1-point perspective, 2-point, 3-point, these are the most important ones and most commonly used perspectives. And let me show you a couple of examples. First of all, this image. This is a photograph. There is a useful option in Photoshop to straighten photographs, which is quite useful now that we want to find the vanishing point in this image. Under the eyedropper tool, you can find the ruler tool, and with the ruler tool, you can select a line in the image which should be straight. So I clicked and dragged over the image, and I selected this part which should be straight, and then I click on straighten here on the top. This option is only in CS5, but if you use previous versions, you can find the image rotation arbitrary option as well, which will also give you the same option. But I'm going to use now straighten, so I click on straighten, and the image is straightened. It's still not perfect because we have a lens distortion in the image. Maybe it's better if I use a vertical line, so I select this line here on the left, and again I straighten the image. It's still not good, but let's say this is what we are going to use in this case. We can always use lens correction if we want to correct these problems, but in this case I'm going to just simply use this version of the image. And I use the custom shape that we created for the vanishing point. And I guess that the vanishing point should be there somewhere in the middle. So I'm drawing my vanishing point and I'm holding down Alt and Shift. Okay. Now, if I zoom closer, we can see all the lines. I can reduce the opacity of this just to see the image better. Okay. And I will try to find the placement of the vanishing point, I'm moving it up and down using the up, down, left and right arrows, and the shift as well if I want to move it faster. So these are the nudge options, keyboard shortcuts to nudge a selected layer around. They only work if you have the move tool selected. Okay, I'm concentrating on these lines here on the left. Okay, so I think the vanishing point should be a bit more to the left in this case. Yeah, now the line starting to align with these lines here, and also on the bottom I can tell. Here on the right it's close but not perfect. Maybe we need to move the vanishing point down a bit. No, probably up a bit. Yeah, now on the right I start to see the lines properly. I might need to move it a little bit to the right. Let me see on the top. Yeah, so now on the top the lines are following, so the original lines of the photographs are following my vanishing point. Also here on the right I can tell it's good, and also on the left it's good. So I found the vanishing point. That's again somewhere straight in the middle. The horizon is a bit further up, but that's the perspective of this photograph. So for example, if I would like to place something on this image, let's say a box, now I can see the perspective and I can easily line it up to these guidelines. We can do the same on other photographs, but let me show you a painting which I used in a previous tutorial as well, when we were talking about composition. So in this image again we see a one vanishing point perspective, and if I use the same custom shape, I guess it's somewhere here on the left. So I just draw my shape, I click on background, then I click on the shape layer again, and I reduce the opacity to something like 50%, and now I'm going to start move it around. Okay, so let me first concentrate here on the right on these lines. So I'm going to move it right and left, and I try to find the lines. Probably the horizon is more down in this case. Yeah, now the lines are, I think, are following properly. Yeah, even like here, I think it's a bit more, even more down. Yeah, I think this is good here on the right. So all the lines are following the building. Okay, so we can call these construction lines or guidelines. And even here on the left we can see the windows, they are following also the lines. And even small details like this column here follows the perspective lines. So we found the vanishing point, which is in this case here on the digital painting. So let me mark it for you. There's the vanishing point. Obviously it's easier to find the vanishing point if you have straight lines in an image or a photograph. But remember, when you start drawing something like this, definitely you need to use perspective to be able to draw something complicated, like a building or a vehicle, or even something simple as a box. And I would like to show you a 2-point perspective example as well. So let me go back to Bridge, and I'm going to select this photograph, and I'm going to extend the canvas with the crop tool. So I select the whole image and I alt click on one of the side points of the crop tool to extend it in both directions like this. And I'm using the same tool again, the custom shape tool which we created, and I just create one shape layer. Okay, so first of all we need to find one of the vanishing points, because here I can tell, first just turn it off, I can tell that there are two vanishing points. So this is a 2-point perspective. The lines of the bridge are going to the left and they are going to meet somewhere here on the left, while these lines are going to meet somewhere on the right. Okay, so this is definitely a 2-point perspective, but the vanishing points are going to be quite far outside the edges of the original photograph, And as you can see, I have one of the vanishing points here on the left. And I'm going to try to align the lines to the bridge. So I'm concentrating here on the bottom, this part, and also here on the top. So I'm going to move it even more to the left, and probably I have to change the horizon as well. And I think I'm getting close to it now. This is quite close to it. Maybe I need an even bigger vanishing point just to have the lines long enough to be able to capture the original perspective. You can see this line here follows those buildings. These lines are close to the bridge. It's not completely accurate, but it's somewhere there. And I'm going to Alt click and then also hold down Shift to move another vanishing point on the right side. And while I'm doing this, I turn off the one on the left because I would like to find the other vanishing point. This one is, I can see it's a bit closer to the image, to the edges of the image than the other one. So I'm moving it closer. Yeah, it's something like this. So I check here on the top, this line, then these lines are parallel to these lines, and also on the bridge it's quite accurate. Again, I don't want to spend too much time on it, but you can see that's my second vanishing point. And if I turn on both of them, you can see that we found the two vanishing points, one here on the left and one here on the right. So now if I turn off the image itself and I just create a blank white layer, you can see that this is the perspective grid of the photograph, which can be really useful if I want to do something with this image, maybe use it for a matte painting or something like that. But mainly this is just an example to show how perspective works in real life. So now we know how to use a custom shape to set up a perspective 1 point, 2 point or 3 point perspective. But I'll show you another way using the vanishing point filter in Photoshop to create a grid. So let me just close these images. And then I also create a new layer in this document and I go to filter vanishing point. Here in this filter, you can define a plane with this tool, the plane tool. You just need to define 4 points of the plane. So for example, if I click here, there, there, and there, that is already a plane. And if I want to use vertical lines as well, I can click on these points here in the middle and holding down Command or Control on the PC and drag another plane, and also I can do the same here. So it creates something like a room which can help you to create your drawing. But if you click on OK, nothing will change in your Photoshop document. What you need to do if you want to use this grid as construction lines in for your drawing, you need to click on these additional options here in the filter and choose Render Grids to Photoshop. So if you click on that, and then if you click on OK, Photoshop will render this grid onto that new layer that we just created. And because it's not my background layer, I can use the Move tool and I can move it easily around. And if I zoom a little bit closer, you can see the details on this grid. So once again, this is a great way to start working in perspective. And there's another way to use this filter. For example, if you have a complicated shape that you want to see in perspective, you can create a drawing. So in this case, I'm going to use just simply shapes. And I select this third option, the Fill Pixels option with the vector tools. And I just quickly create something that I would like to then use in the vanishing point, with the vanishing point. And just to make it more interesting, I'm going to draw ellipses as well. Okay, so let's say this is the profile that I would like to see in perspective. All I need to do is to select everything. So I go to Select All and then edit, copy, deselect it. I turn this layer off and I select my background layer, or I can create another new layer. And then I go back to filter, choose vanishing point, and you will see that we still have this perspective grid. And I just need to use Command V or Control V on PC to paste in the drawing. And then I just simply need to drag and drop it onto the perspective. And you can see I can move it on the bottom, on the left, or on the right plane. And I even have a free transform tool here to make it smaller. So I hold down Shift while I'm making the change on the size. Okay. And I can easily place here on this plane. So now I can see it in perspective. And the great thing in the vanishing point filter is that I can select this part of the plane and hold down Command and drag out another guide here on the left and place in the image again, and then move it here on the left side. So I can have one on the left and one on the right, and I just then, if I click on OK, I just need to connect these lines. So I select the line tool and then I connect these lines, and I have an interesting perspective already on this building. Okay, so for example, for a cathedral or something like that, we can already create a 3D shape using the vanishing point for that. So we could define two sides and then just simply connecting the edges with these lines. Again, this is just good to create a foundation, but saves a lot of time and effort if you start drawing with this vanishing point filter. And last but not least, I would like to show you another way to set up your perspective, and that's the 3D option in Photoshop. If you have a simple background layer, you can go to 3D and you can create shapes if you have the extended version of Photoshop CS4 or 5. So you can go to new shape from layer and you can choose, for example, cube. So let me select cube, and it will create a cube, and we can use these tools to make it smaller or bigger. This is the 3D object rotate tool. So with this I can click on the object and move it around, and I see this little guide here on the left which I can use to make it smaller or bigger, but I can also use these tools on the top, and I select that one for which one is for scaling, so I make it smaller. Okay, like that. And while I have the scale option selected, I can also change the size, like make it higher and create something like a skyscraper. That's what I'm planning to do. Okay, and let me change the scale once again, make it a bit smaller. Okay, now I would like to have another object, another skyscraper, so I'm going to right click on the layer and I choose duplicate layer. And then instead of using the move tool, I'm going to use the 3D move tool. So the object move tool here on the top, that's the object move tool, which keeps it in perspective. Okay, so I can move it in perspective, and I just change the layer order as well. I put this in the background. So now if I move it around, you can see it's behind the other object. I just need to make it smaller as well. Okay. So that's now in perspective, and I can continue doing this and creating lots of different objects, but it's good to know that you can select the layers and then from the 3D panel you can merge them together. So you can choose merge 3D layers. It will still keep it in 3D objects, but now they are going to be on one layer, so I can rotate them together. Okay. So that is a really useful option as well, to set up a 3D scene and to have an interesting perspective. As you can see, there are so many different ways to set up your perspective or to help you start drawing perspective in Photoshop. We will put these all into practice once we are starting to use all the techniques that we have learned in this series. But once again, remember, you can just simply use lines to draw quickly a vanishing point, a horizon, and then start drawing in perspective. Or you can create a custom shape that we created together and use that as a vanishing point. Or you can use the vanishing point filter or 3D shape options. And remember the different perspectives, 1 point, 2 point, 3 point perspectives, or the even more complicated like 4 or 5 point perspectives. Okay, so I hope you found this tutorial useful. Next time I'm going to talk about how to use light and shadows in your composition, which is again a very important lesson, because without light you can't really describe 3D objects. It is probably even more important than perspective to define 3D objects. So make sure you come back next time and learn about lighting and using lights and shadows for your compositions, for your very own digital art. Thanks a lot for your attention, and I hope you will join me next time.